Man, I am always jamming out to the beginning of our show, man. What's happening, Mark?
Dave Cooper live. How
I
are
am
you?
here in person. I am here. It's really me in Pittsburgh. In Pittsburgh.
Oh, what a beautiful background behind you, Dave. Welcome back
Uh,
to Pittsburgh,
we are.
PGH.
We just got into Pittsburgh, and we're going through the move in our new place. And uh, man, moving's like doing sheetrock to me. Awful. I got a spack on sand. That's like to me the worst thing ever. But anyhow, here
It's
we
heavy.
are.
It never ends, and there's a lot of dust in your way.
There is, and we got to get the new studio set up and get everything going again. So everybody, bear with us as we work through that process because it is a process. Outside of that, we got an awesome show today, man. We're going to talk about equipment. We're going to talk about technology, but more importantly, Mark, we're going to talk about the people that are behind the equipment and the technology, because without the people, you can't use any of it.
Amen. And where are people joining us today, Dave?
Man, we are live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter. So get your tweets on, everybody out there. And also make sure you do subscribe and hit that little bell on our YouTube channel so you don't ever miss one of our live shows. And if you do miss it, you can watch it on the weekend. You can watch it in the evenings. You can watch it whenever you want. That's what we're all about. We're at over 5,000 hours a month being watched right now. Mark, there's a lot of people consuming the information we're putting out there on a regular basis, and that is good news.
Hey, I love it. I love it. I love it. Smash the like. And as Sean St. Amour says, Dave Cooper live and chill.
Sean St. Amour is in Canada. You told me something I have not heard. You said there is a blackout, an internet blackout happening in Canada. Can anybody out there tell us that's happening? I'm curious.
I heard it's phone and text, but put it this way: everyone I sent messages to hasn't responded, so there's a little validation right there.
Yeah. So if you're in Canada, we hope you're able to watch us. Please let us know things are back up and running or where you're at, because we love our Canadian partners. They are a huge advocate of BS Friday and building better, and that's what we want to make sure we keep in touch. And Sean St. Amour is one of them. Maybe I need to send them one of my mobile kits.
Mobile kits, yeah. I'm ready when you are. I got a little intro here, Dave.
Ooh, Mark's gonna do the intro. All right, Mark, go for it.
Okay. To say I'm a fan of today's guest is an understatement. Some will say he sucks the air out of any room he enters, but I think he's a solid 0.6 out of 10 any day of the week. Our guest today handles well under any pressure, though his favorite is 50 pascals. He's also writing a novel called The Red Door of Truth. It's a murder mystery set in a home near you where the savior hunts down and kills leaks under a blanket of dense fog. We're talking, of course, about the incredible Sam Myers. Sam is a building scientist and training consultant with RETROTEC and a huge supporter of training and building science throughout the industry. If you've ever watched the RETROTEC tutorials, you have met Sam. He's also a huge fan of ABBA. I'm sorry, I meant the ABBA. That's right, not the Swedish pop group. So, on a personal note, we also are very thrilled that Sam and the folks at RETROTEC have helped out our good friends at wallassembly.com. You all know Travis and you all know Connor, and we'll get into that story later, but you don't want to see me anymore. Sam Myers, welcome to the show.
Outstanding. Man, what's happening?
By far the best intro I've ever heard. That was incredible.
I have a disclaimer right off the bat. I did not write that.
Oh man, I could have sworn you just took it up a notch. What happened?
Yeah, so Sam, full transparency here, Connor Malloy will to deliver a surprise intro for you. But given the rolling blackout during because of all the big maple leaves in Canada. He sent me that, and so I delivered a quasi Connor Malloy intro. So
Well, I owe
Awesome.
Connor a beer next time I see him then.
there you go.
All right, Sam, we're going to hop into this because we got a lot of fun today. Not only are we going to talk about your background in just a second, we're actually going to do what we believe, we as in the three of us, the first live show blower door test live right here on the BS Friday show with Mark Bare Naked Willie and myself. So we're going to do that as well. We're going to walk you through the equipment. And Sam Myers is a professional at this. He already has cameras and tripods set up so he can move things around so you can see the digital readouts for yourself on how this works. But before we get into all that, Sam, we need to know everything about you from the moment you were born to this very moment in time. Do not leave out any of the good stuff from the hospital, or we will have your mother on the show, and everybody knows that could be quite embarrassing. Ask Mark Willie, his mother joins the show regularly. But you only got 2 minutes to do it. The floor is yours.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you guys for inviting me and having me on. This is going to be a blast.
Literally.
For real, yeah. So this is kind of an obscure job that I have, the blower door guy. It's like, how does anybody get into that? When I finished up college, I live in Wilmington, North Carolina. I went to college at UNC Wilmington. Finished up that, moved to the North Carolina's Outer Banks and worked in vacation real estate, dealing with weekly rentals. So dealing with people driving down from New Jersey and Pennsylvania in minivans full of screaming kids every weekend. So I could only do that, but for so long. So I did that for a year, went to grad school at East Carolina University, got a master's of science in sustainability, focused on the built environment. And they just so happened to have a grant that they needed a student to manage on looking at energy consumption of coastal vacation rentals. So I just happened to be at the right place at the right time. So that's kind of how I got into, dipped my toe into building science at the start. And once I finished my degree there, I did an internship with Advanced Energy in Raleigh, North Carolina. They're an energy efficiency engineering firm. Then they offered me a full-time job, worked there for about 5 years. And eventually RETROTEC, the blower door manufacturer, picked me up, and I've been with them for about 4.5 years now. So I do the bulk of our education, all of our training videos, a lot of our marketing stuff, some product design. So it's been a fun ride.
Yeah, I bet it has been a fun ride. And I think this is awesome that you're on the show. I think it's awesome, Mark. We're going to be doing a live demonstration here as well. Mark and Sam, why don't you set the scene about where you're standing and what's around you, because you had to make some special arrangements during the pandemic and COVID, and you took it upon yourself to build out where you're standing now. So I think people should learn about that.
Yeah. So before 2020, my primary job for RETROTEC was to travel, to go teach in person, to go present at conferences, to go represent us at trade shows. And then, of course, for about 18 months, once the pandemic started, we weren't going anywhere. So we were trying to figure out, okay, well, how do we still get people the knowledge that they need if we can't train them in person? So I had this idea to build a training lab in my garage and then teach people over Zoom. It's the next best thing to actually being there. So what you see here is a Flow Lab training simulator that I built. It sits on about a 8 by 8 foot footprint. It's about 10 feet tall. It's stick built, studs, wood studs that are painted white, and then has clear 1/4 inch acrylic walls all the way around. So if we wanted to smoke the inside, we can see what air currents are doing, see what happens when we run a blower door fan or a duct tester, and go from there. But right today we're going to use it as a single family house, but there's a set of double doors that go down the middle here, so we can actually make it behave like a multifamily unit if we wanted to. There's a chamber upstairs where we can make it behave as a vented attic or an encapsulated attic or a duct system. So yeah, any kind of scenario we come across in the field, we can actually simulate it here and teach it over Zoom to anybody in any part of the world. So I've taught people in Canada, South America, Chile, Peru, so parts of Europe as well. So it's worked out. So I've actually been able to do a lot of our training videos based in here too.
So Sam, one thing maybe, because we have so many new people joining our show every week, just give us the 5-second, 30-second What are we using a blower door test? What is the red door of truth? Just give us the quick overview, and then we'll get into the building science, because we got a lot of building science folks on right now.
Well done, Dave. Perfect.
Yeah. So the blower door is what you see here. This big red thing in a doorway. This is a fan, and there's a manometer that goes with it. And this is the tool that we use to measure how airtight or how leaky a building envelope is.
I think the manometer is so crafty. People say it, they don't actually get it. There's the little tubes, there's the, putting out there, but basically it's a tool, right? And it's telling us what the fan is doing during pressurization and depressurization. And Sam, real quick, you have the coolest stickers in the business. What is 50 pascals and what is 75 pascals? Dave's from the military, so he'll get a better idea of why 75 pascals, but give people the kind of the simple version.
Yeah, so 50 pascals is the amount of pressure that we induce inside a house to take an air tightness measurement. So if you know anything about pressure at all, if you're probably more familiar with inches of water, there's 250 pascals in 1 inch of water. However, when you induce 50 pascals on the building, it's equivalent to about a 20-mile-an-hour wind hitting all 6 sides of that house. So all 4 walls, the ceiling, and the floor. The 75 is that's the number that we use for commercial buildings. So usually we have taller buildings, stronger stack effects. So we just bump it up to a higher level. But if we're testing a house, 50 is our number. No matter what type of house or dwelling it is, it just allows us to put every house in an even playing field like that.
And if I'm correct, the military always uses the 75, right?
Yeah, military is always going to use, it's usually going to be commercial buildings. So we're always going to use 75 pascals, usually using that Army Corps of Engineers test standard.
Bam,
So
there it is.
Let's keep it on residential for a moment here. The red door of truth is only one part of the job. Can you walk us through what has to be set up through a building before you actually put the door of truth to work?
Yeah, so if we're talking about walking into a house to get it prepped for a blower door test, we want to make sure that all the windows are shut and latched, all exterior doors are shut and latched. Any combustion appliances that we have, we want to make sure they're set to off or pilot. We don't want to backdraft any of those fumes back into the house with the blower door fan. We want to make sure that the blower door fan is the only thing manipulating pressure in that house. So we want to turn off the HVAC system, turn off any exhaust fans, turn off dryers. And then we want to make sure all the interior doors are open. We want to get the whole house under that 50 pascal pressure. So doors that kind of behave like dampers, we want to make sure all those are opened up.
So Sam, I have 2 funny points that aren't so funny, and one question. So when I was trained, I was taught to put my keys on the water heater to vacuum out the fireplace, which I didn't do one time. And also, if it's new construction, the plumbing's never been used. So what about those traps and drains and vent stacks?
Yeah, you want to make sure there's water in there. I've even tested some existing homes that have been vacant for a while. And if you start pulling a negative pressure on that house, you're going to know it really soon. It's an awful smell. Right. So yeah, those are great points to make. Yeah, the fireplace is a big one too. If you're going to pull a negative pressure on the house, if that fireplace isn't cleaned out, you're going to pull ashes all over that living room and make a pretty serious mess. Yeah.
What is from a homeowner's point of view, right? Because we do all of this for the homeowner, for the occupant. We're trying to make the home better. We're trying to make the home healthier, right? By doing this red door of truth, as we call it, the blower door test, outside of it being code in most states now, what is the value, if we were to put this in layman's term, to the occupants as to why this is important to them in their wallet?
Yeah, so there's really 4 ways that I look at it. I mean, when people think about blower doors, if they already know about it, they think, oh, the energy test. Well, I would kind of put that one in the bottom of the list. I mean, the big one I believe is health, especially recently. I think, is my house making me sick? It was Googled, I think, like 400 billion times or something since the pandemic started, because people have been working from home and not feeling well, and maybe thinking maybe it's my house's fault. And in a lot of the cases it is. So the blower door can not only measure air tightness, but expose where certain leak parts are in the building envelope. Because if you live in a humid climate like I live in the Southeast United States, if air comes in the summertime, moisture is coming in with it, and then that can cause another array of problems. So the health aspect is really important. The durability aspect is important too, because we build houses out of wood, right? And if we have that moisture problem, then we can have rotten wood. If we have excessive air leakage and a lack of insulation, things can condense. And over time, that framing starts to get soggy. So the durability aspect is important too. Plus comfort. You know, who enjoys not being able to sleep well in their own home, right? I mean, sometimes we'll come across a house that'll have bedrooms that are hot or cold in certain parts of the year. So air tightness or the lack thereof can be a large contributor to that. And then, of course, the energy I would put at the end. But usually if somebody's going to get a call to do a blower door test, that comfort is going to come before the energy. People just kind of get used to what they pay in energy bills, and they're not really going to consider that a major factor to bring somebody out. But comfort will.
I think Dave's question was what was on everyone's mind. And my thought as you were running through your answer, Sam, and please take this as a acknowledgement, a compliment, is technical minded people that can operate things at that level often lack the communication skills of making it land easily. And everything you just said, I'm pretty sure someone that has no idea what construction is or anything about tech got what you said. You convey it so well. And thanks for being you, brother.
Well, thanks, Mark. I appreciate that. You know, as many times as I've tried to explain this starting out, I've screwed it up. So eventually I'll get it right. So.
Hey, listen, I think the only thing you really need to say is we're trying to make sure your home is healthy, because homes are the cause of a lot of problems for a lot of people, and they don't know it. And that's a good starting point for the consumer. Go ahead, Mark. I see you're going to say something.
Yeah. It's the starting point. And then, so you're going to hear, because of the bulk of what a lot of we get into is, you're going to hear references to new construction, or Dave will be bringing in the modular and the prefab. That will happen in this conversation today. But make no mistake, if you have a building, no matter what age it is, a great starting point is the blower door test, because it allows us to see how the home is operating now. It gives us insights into every nook, cranny, hole, and buggeroo that's out there. So existing buildings massively use this. In fact, I would say the weatherization community, before the high performance community, put blower doors on the map. And so it's code, it's needed for your occupancy and new construction, and it's a tool to dial in what's lacking. So while these blower doors are being used, that tool is telling all the trades that should be on site what was missed, so we can handle it on the spot.
I agree.
Yeah. And new construction is the most important time to do this, because it's easiest to do things right the first time. And the blower door test right there will let you know if you're on that right track and if you've accomplished that. Because once you start hanging sheetrock and all that, and if things aren't right, that's when it gets expensive and tricky.
So that's a great point that you just made right there. At what point should a contractor or GC homeowner, request a blower door test? Is my first question. My second follow-up question to that is, are all blower door tests the same?
Wow, he gave you good ones, Sam.
No, that's great. It really depends on the type of construction that you're doing. I mean, if I'm a GC and I'm really trying to produce the best quality product that I can, I want to get that blower door done as soon as I can. So I know what Jake Bruton does is, once the air barrier is completely installed, they'll run a test before windows and doors are cut in. And then if they think it might be a little leakier than it should be, they'll smoke things, or maybe use them to, heat it up with space heaters, and then maybe see if they can find some leaky spots that way. They'll do a test again after windows and doors are cut in. If everything is flashed right, there really shouldn't be that much of a difference. And then, of course, your final test, which is the one that really matters. But if you're not doing spray foam on your roof deck, if your roof deck isn't a part of your air barrier, then you need to hang your ceiling and then do your blower door that way. So that can be a little trickier. So again, it really just depends on, how you're going about building that house and what your air barrier materials are.
Yeah. So if you don't have an air barrier strategy, the blower door is more important because now it's telling you the points that you got to cover. If you have a strategy, it's a little easier to map. I like the reference of how Jake does it. You have the, let's say in this case, we know Jake, so he has his zip, right? All along the complete exterior. So now he could test his full exterior air barrier. Then the windows and doors are cut in. So that transition to all those penetrations, you can now see the variable of how the windows and those connections are made. So that's a comparable line and a check. And then some folks, especially in the commercial, go the one more test before insulating, and they do it at the MEP rough so that those penetrations are done, right? So not everyone has a penetration schedule. Not everyone has an air barrier plan. Those things help, but this tool tells you what to hit. And then, of course, lastly, you have it post-rock and all the changes that happen after we rock. Or let's say, for instance, there's a huge change order on the project. Tell your third-party expert, because they'll tell you whether they need to get back out there and add that to your plan so you can have a successful, less leaky building.
Yeah, that final test is the one that really matters. I mean, that's where the building is when it's finished. And so doing those pre-tests along the way just kind of help you show that you're on the right track.
So what is it? So how many tests? That's new construction. If this is your job that you're going to be testing, how many tests should be done from start to finish along the process of the build?
Yeah, I think 3 tests are plenty. I mean, that first initial test after the air barrier is installed, that second test after those major penetrations are cut in, like the windows and the doors, and then that final test. I mean, you can do another test, before insulation goes in, like Mark just mentioned, if you have some MEP penetrations that are going in. But again, depending on the layout of the house, sometimes you can fix that stuff at final if you have a crawl space or a basement that you can access or an attic. But yeah, I mean, at least 2 beforehand to check the major stuff before you do that final test when it's move-in ready.
Yeah.
That's perfect, Sam. So some developers, contractors, builders, right? They own blower doors. So they can use this as a tool to just make sure that their mock-ups and each install is there. If you have a third party, right? So it needs to be verified by another source. That will be in their contract, when they're supposed to come out and do it. So it's going to echo what Sam gave for the residential. For commercial, they'll be different. It's a whole other world we're not going to go into today. But I think let's see this baby in action, huh?
Sure.
Yeah, I think this is great. So, all right, Sam, the floor is yours. Why don't you walk us through what you're doing? And I like to always say, talk to us like we're, grade school, kindergarten kids, so we really can understand what you're doing. And then the folks that are out there trying to learn about building science, learn about healthier homes, they can also understand it as well. Go for it.
Yeah. So we'll talk a little bit about the components of this thing and how it all comes together first. And it's a calibrated fan. These are specially calibrated when they come out of the factory at RETROTEC. You've got your door panel, which consists of an aluminum frame that expands into the doorway. And then you have a cloth that comes over to really fill in the rest of that doorway that attaches to the frame. And then you have your 2-channel manometer, which is what this is. This is kind of the brain of the whole system. This is taking your readings. This is what we call a 2-channel manometer because it's basically 2 manometers built into one housing. You've got channel A and channel B. I'll zoom into this a little closer here in a second once we get it running. But one side is telling us when that house has reached 50 pascals. The other side is telling us what the flow is at that 50 pascal pressure. So the way we represent that flow is CFM, cubic feet per minute, at 50 pascals. So it's CFM 50. And then everything just connects together with tubing. The way we've done it at RETROTEC, I'll grab one of these just to show you here. Everything is color coded, if you can see here. So, the red tube goes to the red port. The other end goes to the red cloth. It just plugs right into the cloth. There's ports that read outdoor pressure to give us that reference. The yellow tube connects to the yellow port on the gauge. The other end goes to the yellow fan. So that's as easy as we could possibly make it. So that's how everything goes together. The frame, got one right here. It has a rubber seal that goes all the way around it. So that just gives you a good, firm, tight fit into the doorway. There's these knobs that you can turn to allow it to expand. I do it all the way. There we go. So it just slides open like that. So that way you can just fit it into the doorway. And then once you have the frame fit to the door, you can just lie it on top of the cloth on the floor and Velcro it in. You just kind of wrap it like a present. And then when you take the frame apart, it just breaks apart in one motion like that. So it's fairly simple. Once you put one of these together a couple of times, it's like riding a bike. It takes about 10 to 15 minutes to set up. But
so real quick, Sam, what people can't see because the shroud is already up, the frame that Sam just had in his hands, because most people don't have more than one frame, that is behind that shroud right now. And that is what is tight to that opening. And I also want to comment. There it is. There it is.
Yeah.
Fully adjustable. Yes, they know that all door sizes are different. There's widths, there's heights, there's changes on the jamb. So this accommodates those changes. And then I got to say, the fact that those hoses are color coded are incredible. When I had my BPI tests, I didn't have that back then. And that ensures repeatability, and it takes the guesswork out so people could focus on the envelope.
Yeah, for sure. And I would also imagine, Sam, when you do a home like modular or modern method of construction style home, that frame works a lot better because it's square versus maybe some of them site builders out there that can't seem to get that square.
You never know what you're going to show up to.
Right? Go ahead. I'm just kidding. Don't get mad at me, all you site builders out there. There's some good ones.
Every third-party expert out there has some cardboard and tape with them to make adjustments.
Yeah, I bet. All right, let's get back to it, Sam.
You'll probably see on this fan, there's some different hole configurations here. It opens up. This plate pops off via magnets. There's another ring here that pops off. The reason why we have this is because the tighter a house is, the smaller the hole we want to have on this inlet side, because we want to be able to restrict airflow in some cases so that the blades will spin faster to generate more pressure so the manometer can take a reading. So it's kind of like gears in a car, right? If you want to go a certain speed, you want to choose the right gear to get you there. So like this, we call these ranges. So you got to make sure you have the right range so that you can get a reading. The gauge will tell you where you need to go up or down. If you can't reach 50 pascals, if the fan's running wide open, that's telling you need to open it up more. If you can reach 50, but you're not getting a flow reading on that second channel there, that's telling you you need to choke it down to a smaller range. So that's why we have all these here. But I'll show you here back on the gauge. Once I have my fan and everything set up like I do now, I mentioned earlier, it's a 2-channel manometer. So where these zeros are, and you see in pascals, that's where our 50 is going to show up once we get there. And then right underneath is where our flow is going to show up. And then to change our range, you just tap on the picture of the fan, choose the one you want, and then go there. So again, we try to make this as easy as we can. You're matching colors and pictures. So I don't know how else we make it even simpler. So, but yeah, we'll go ahead and crank this thing up and just show you what a reading looks like. Whenever I am in a house that I've never been to before, I usually like to start off at 25 pascals and then walk around and check to see if there's, the fire, if I'm getting a fireplace smell from something, or if I smell some mold or something that might be on the building envelope, maybe I want to flip the fan around and pressurize instead, so I'm not pulling that in. So just to make sure I'm not seeing anything too funky. But let's say I've done all that and everything, looks good. Before I take my reading, I want to do what's called a baseline. So under the settings menu, it's the first thing you get to, capture baseline. And before I do that, I want to make sure the fan's covered, which I did not do here. But I can either plug these 4 holes up, or there's this little shower cap cover here I can just cover the whole fan with. But for this demonstration, we don't really need to do it. But for a real house, we would. And what this does is it removes wind from the outside from the equation. We don't want to include that in our reading. So this allows it to see what those pressure differences are between inside and outside, log it, and then include that in our calculation so that we're not counting that as much. So, once that looks good, I've captured it. I'll do it for about 30 seconds on a calm day, maybe a minute on a windier day, and then go back to my main screen. I know you guys can't see probably, but there's a 0.3 there where it captured it.
It's loud and clear. It's completely visible, Sam. It's perfect.
Cool. Excellent. So my baseline's been captured. So now we'll do what I was talking about. We'll run it up to 25 pascals. So there's a button right here in the middle that says set pressure.
Are you ready, Dave? Drum roll, brother.
I'm ready, man.
A keypad comes up. I'll just type in 25 and then hit set. Whoop, wait a minute. Let's make sure we're on and have power.
Atomic batteries to power, turbines to speed.
Now we should be good. We'll go to set pressure, 25. And now we're running. And so it gets to your target pressure pretty quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, like 6 seconds.
Let's see, get that glare off of there for you guys. There we go.
It's
so you
perfect,
notice
Sam.
I've gotten to 25, but I don't see anything down here yet, which is fine because I want to get to 50. So I can either stop the test and re-enter 50, or the gauge allows me to jog up 5 pascals. So I'm targeting 25. Now if I hit it, it's 30. And I can keep going up until I get to 50.
Great.
Now I'm at 45, now 50. Now I see a reading start to show up.
Right.
And I'll let it go on up to 50. And I'm looking like I'm going to be at about 500 CFM for this house.
Mm-hmm.
Got it.
Yeah, about 490.
Yeah. So I got a question. So when you get through this test, let's talk about what that 500 CFM means, especially when it comes to ventilating your cooktops, your ovens, your stoves, right? Because the air tightness in a home makes a big difference on what you put in there ventilation wise as well, because you could still suck the ashes out of your fireplace, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that 500 CFM would be great. I mean, if I was testing like a 2,000 square foot house, I would be pretty happy with that number. Yeah, usually any kind of number you see in the hundreds is usually a good sign. However, if I'm talking new construction and I'm trying to get to passive house, yeah, I mean, I really want as low as I can get. There's also another way we can represent air leakage, and that's air changes per hour at 50 pascals. And that's where you need to know the volume of the space.
Yep.
So for example, passive house, they require 0.6 air changes per hour. However, I have tested existing homes that have been 25 air changes per hour at 50. So there's a wide range of scales where you could land there. But I like going back to that CFM 50 because it's just that raw leakage number. Air changes per hour tends to favor larger buildings than it does smaller ones. So it can be easier to pass than smaller. So I don't really look at air changes per hour unless a code requires me to.
Right.
But that CFM 50, like I said, if we were just having a fictional 2,000 square foot house and I got 500 and it was an existing house, I'd be blown away. That'd be a great number. But if we get a house that tight, you're right. There are some implications there. So if that house just happens to have one of those big, cat sucker 5,000 stove range hoods there, yeah, it's gonna pull that house way under. So
for the record, this is the first time we've gave a product reference of the cat sucker 5,000.
Yeah,
and
just
for all our feline friends, you can find that on Amazon. It's on sale this week. Dave Cooper Live is your discount code.
Yeah, just pulls the spaghetti right off the stove and outside. Yeah,
perfect.
So in code, right? When we're building code, it's typically 5 ACH or 3 ACH, but
depending on what state you're in.
Depending on what state, great. It depends. And what Sam is referencing is when you have that number, that is based on also having the volume of the space. But the point he's driving home is your CFM 50 is really a number that we're interested in having, and that's why when we got the 500, like you saw the smile on his face, right? It wasn't a higher number. So in this instance, you know, sometimes there's a golf game where you're going for a low score. Sometimes there's a bowling game where you're going for a high score. You have to know the context of what those numbers are and what that means to you.
That's right.
That's why
Exactly.
it's a tool.
That's right.
And it's good if you're going to have a tight house like that. What I was getting at with like the kitchen exhaust is you'll need makeup air for things that exhaust air outside of the house. So if you have a really tight envelope, you don't want to turn on a fan and have that house pull under a negative pressure. That's just not good for the indoor air quality. So, you know, a lot of these really tight passive houses, sometimes they have to have makeup air for even the dryer. That's why a lot of them just switch to a condensing dryer instead. But yeah, these big kitchen exhausts, if you're going to have that in your house and you have a tight envelope, you need to have some kind of makeup air for it so you're not starving it.
Yeah.
So Sam, it's interesting. Every time someone says passive house, Dave keeps a tally and I owe him $1. But every time someone says it depends, he owes me $5. So right now I'm winning.
Just do me a favor, Sam, and just say passive house about 10 more times. And
It depends. It depends.
That's right. So
Well,
here's a question.
It depends on whether or not I'll say passive house again.
Oh, that's
man,
a technical guy on the fly.
that is playing politically correct to both sides right there. We got some questions, and I want to start off also with a question. So I'm going to go ahead and ask that, and then we'll get in. Rob Hoskin has 2 questions in here, and Mark, I'll let you read that next one. But
Great.
My question is this. So you're doing the blower door test. I have leakage. Where do I, or how do I find where the leaking air is coming from so I can address whatever problem I may have that happened during the construction build?
Cheech and Chong, up in smoke.
So one of these is going to be your best friend, thermal imaging camera. This works best when you have at least 14 degrees difference between inside and outside. But looking for air leaks, this is awesome as long as you have that temperature difference. And what this fan does is it serves as an amplifier for the camera. So if you're setting this up in the doorway and you're inside the house and you're depressurizing the house, you're exaggerating those leaks. So it makes it really easy for them to show up on camera. These tools go hand in hand when you're looking for leaks.
So Sam, just simple there, and it's incredible how fast you pull out that camera. When you said depressurizing the house, what he means is all the air in the house is being removed by this fan, right? That's a depressurization so that the leaks are allowing that air, let's say, for example, by a window. And so when he holds that thermal camera up by the window, you're going to see the colors showcase it.
Exactly.
Is that right, Sam?
And yeah, exactly. I wish I would have had my space heater going inside of here. I did a webinar a couple of days ago, but that's the reason why I have the insulation up in some of these panels and not in the other, because you have to be careful with a thermal camera because not every discoloration you see is going to be an air leak. It could be thermal bridging or it could be moisture. So it's important to know what you're looking at. But if you go to RETROTEC's YouTube channel, I've got a tutorial where I do exactly this, and you can see the differences in temperature between an insulated wall and an uninsulated wall, and then what an air leak looks like versus that. So
we will wait until it's colder in the Carolinas to do that test based on energy efficiency. No reason to put in a heater today.
Exactly.
We'll do that next time, Sam.
All right. So let's get into this here. What's happening, Gregory? Good to see you, and Peter. Here's a question, Mark. You can go ahead and read it off from Rob Hoskin.
Okay, so Rob is also in PGH, Pittsburgh here. He says, a colleague asks, what would Sam recommend a testing agent do if they are blower door testing a house on a 90-degree Fahrenheit windy day, and the only side of the house where the blower door can be installed is the windward side?
Yeah, that's tough. I guess it has to talk about, or has to do with how windy we're talking. If the only direction you have is windward, what you can do is take a tube and then attach that to your manometer and then run it through the if you can run it around the side of the house, the outside that way, you have some options there to try to get it out of the wind a little bit better. What we have, this is called the Smart Cloth. It has integrated wind dampening built in it. So it has small tubing that references the outside in a couple of spots and then averages it together. But we've noticed that it works best on the leeward side so that, whenever the wind's not blowing right up against it. But if you don't have that, you still have the ability to run a tube outside and then, wrap it around the side of the house or get it out of the wind some other way. And then let your baseline run a little bit longer. Maybe let it run for a couple of minutes just to really average that stuff out. And if it's 90 degrees out, if you have to correct for an extreme temperature, we have an app called rCloud that'll do that. So air density is different at different temperatures and at different elevations. So if you're testing in Colorado up in the mountains, there's a correction you have to make to your blower door number to correct for that. But if you use the rCloud app, which just on your phone or your tablet, it'll pair with the manometer via Wi-Fi. It'll geolocate where you are and take local weather readings and automatically correct for that. So that's the easiest way, just to go ahead and correct for temperature.
Is the practice still used with? I hope everyone has a reusable water bottle. But is the plastic still used? The plastic water bottle still used with the tubes?
No, it just doesn't work really well. What we've seen is that sometimes wind can kind of blow in the mouth of that bottle and pressurize it. Okay. And then it can make your readings go kind of wonky. So the best thing to do, this thing actually works really well. If you can set up on the leeward side and you have this cloth, it does a really good job of calming that noise down. But if you don't have that, sometimes what I do is I'll take just the bag that my manometer comes in, I'll unzip it and put the end of the tube in there somewhere that way and just try to block that wind coming off of it. But
look at that beautiful bag. Look at that.
Yeah, the lunchbox.
Right.
Yeah.
So I got a question, Dave. So we did the blower door test there at 500 CFM. So Sam, if the building is really tight and you've made those adjustments down below, but it's still really tight, can you test the building with a duct blaster?
Sure. Yeah, you can. That's actually what a lot of our customers do that primarily test.
That was a total setup question, by the way.
Yeah.
I knew you were.
I just so happen to have one right here. Yeah. So what he's referring to is a duct tester fan, which is this right here. So you won't need the flex when you're using it as a blower door. This just pops off. But when you're testing ductwork for air leakage, it's really the same process. You're just using a smaller calibrated fan. And these max out at about 800 CFM. And then you can extrapolate up to about 1,000 CFM. But yeah, as long as your blower door number is going to be within that range, you can definitely use that. We have a cloth that's just like this, just has a smaller hole for that fan, and you do it the exact same way.
So since we've shown it now, and I asked for the building envelope using the duct blaster, as long as we're here and as long as we have you live, Sam, can you tell people why they would need and use the duct blaster?
Blaster. Yeah, so when we're using a duct tester fan like that, this really comes into play. And what I've noticed, it comes into play a lot more when you have a region that loves to install ducts on the outside of the building envelope, like in the Southeast where I live. We love putting ductwork in hot attics that are vented or down.
Sounds ridiculous, Sam. Why would anyone do that?
Just because it's the way we've always done it. That's the only reason I can ever get.
So insightful, right?
Yeah.
Worst
but
answer ever.
That's what we have to deal with around here. So so the ductwork is going to be the part of the house that's going to experience the highest pressures all the time. So that part is going to leak the hardest. So we want to make sure that ductwork is airtight as possible. So, for example, my house, all my ductwork is up in the vented attic, and it can get up to 140 degrees up there during the summer. So if I have a leak,
you're pushing cold
all that air in.
You're pushing cold air through a 140 degree attic.
Yeah.
Humans are funny.
that can cause a bunch of issues. And I'm pulling that 140-degree air into my return to go into the house. So I'm just making that heat pump work harder. So yeah, I really want to see how leaky my ductwork is going to be when it's all said and done if I have a setup like that.
Yeah. So Jonathan Finewood says, what I need is a frame and cloth that fits into a TT window with a hole for the smaller fan.
A TT window.
No idea. Anybody?
Oh, tilt and turn, he's saying.
Oh, tilt and turn. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
good one, Jonathan. So you're asking for a mini shroud, a mini frame.
We do have a window frame, but what he's referring to, he's probably looking for something smaller, even smaller than that. So, yeah, Jonathan, reach out to me. Let me know what dimensions you need. It might be possible. So
that's a whole category. That's really interesting. Thanks, Jonathan. If you find 250 buyers, and Dave finds 250 buyers, and I find 250 buyers, and Sam finds 250 buyers, we can make a limited edition run of 1,000 pieces.
There you go.
There we go.
There you go. All right, last question. We are about out of time. Sam, I asked earlier if all blower door test equipment is made equally or the testing's done equally. What makes Retrofit and your company that you're working with so great? I mean, just tell us, give us the rundown. Why should we be using your products when we're out in the field doing this work?
Yeah, so a lot of the upgrades that you see us do come from user feedback. For example, there on that duct tester, there's a clear flange that has two handles that clip on to a return. You know, the other manufacturers, you have to hold it up there with one hand and try to fight gravity and tape it with another. Stuff like that. We're always trying to figure out how to make it easier. We're also the only manufacturer to make all of our fan shells and manometer shells out of automotive grade high impact plastic. So really low chances of these shells breaking. There's actually a video when Jim Bergman was at RETROTEC Tools, he pushed this fan off the top bed rail of his pickup truck onto the asphalt and ran just fine. No cracks in the shell after that. Any other manufacturer, that's going to shatter on the ground when it hits. You get a little more fan power out of our fans. We also are the only ones to offer an even more powerful fan to go upwards up to 8,000 CFM if you test a lot of large buildings or large leaky historic homes. We just offer more options to fit whatever your needs are. Also, this year, we're coming out with a new manometer that's really going to take things up a little bit here. So this is actually built on a Android platform. The rCloud app I was telling you about before is actually built in here locally, so you don't have to pair a phone with it. It'll have my training videos built in. So if you're brand new to it, you can go in, the gauge can tell you what to do, how to set up the house, how to set up the equipment without having to call back into the office to figure it out. So this is coming out later this year, the DM32X. So we just, when it comes to blower doors and duct testers, we just seem to be the only company that's really pushing the envelope, pun intended, to improve the different types of equipment that we use. Instead of having to rely on designs from the early 90s. So
I love that.
That's kind of the quick rundown. Yeah.
That's called what? The DM32X?
Yeah. So we have a couple of videos on that on our YouTube channel. And the plan is that it's going to get dropped this fall.
And then over your right-hand shoulder is a banner indicating what commercial is like. And so at times you guys have to pressurize and depressurize a much larger volume of space.
Yep.
And at which case you would use multiple blower doors depending on the volume that's needed to be handled.
And if you want to get into that, we offer live trainings to do that all the time. I did a test a few years ago. It took 33 of those fans. So we have all the resources to show you how to do that.
Love it. Absolutely love it.
So, Dave, next time you're back in North Carolina, that's when we'll set up the heater. Dave could be in the hot box, Sam could be in the testing spot, and we'll find the delta.
We will. Sam, Man, appreciate you coming on BS Friday with Mark and I today. It's always great when we have experts on that are not only talking about what they do, but showing us what they do and helping others understand the value of what you do. So we appreciate all of that. And I love that you have training videos. That's super cool. And I think a lot of people can learn from that.
Yeah, I really appreciate you guys having me on. This was a lot of fun. Let's do it again sometime.
Yeah. We're ready. You guys know Sam is all over the internet. They have the YouTube channels. He's on the Instagram. He's on the LinkedIn. He's probably on the MySpace and the Facebook as well. So, Sam, continued success to you and all your fans. And Dave, when are we going to see you next?
You're going to see me Monday. I'm in the middle of a move this weekend, so we will get back next Saturday to coffee with Dave. I know we've had a little bit of a break there the last couple of weeks, but we will be back on it. But we will see you this Monday, 1 p.m. Eastern. How
about if anyone wants to have coffee with Dave, they bring Gatorade and help you move boxes.
That's it. There you go. Just reach right out to me. I'll be somewhere in Swickley, Pennsylvania. So just give us a shout and we will catch up.
Sam, we'll talk to you soon. Have a blessed weekend, brother.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
you
Sam.
too.
Yep. Don't go anywhere. We'll come back to you after the outro. Mark, as always, man, an awesome show. Thanks for all your hard work. All right, everybody. We will see you Monday.